that I want to stress is that until this moment, we espouse nonviolence. We are not for any violence, because violence only breeds violence. And we know that from history, not only in Israel-Palestine, but elsewhere. And we have said so for the past 35 years. But what we have witnessed since we have said so, and we have signed the Oslo Accords, is more annexation of Palestinian land, is more encroachment on our human rights, is more killing of the Palestinians, and we have seen that all of this suffering and encroachment and violations of our rights culminated in what we have witnessed and the world had witnessed in the Gaza Strip for over 2 years. What we have witnessed was live on TV, and the whole world has seen it. No one can say we have not seen it. It's not like anything that happened in the past. Everybody has seen the killing, the destruction, the injuries, the wiping of communities, whole areas were obliterated, the attack on identity, the attack on schools, cultural centers, hospitals, everything that is needed for people to be able to live was destroyed. 82% of Gaza has been destroyed infrastructure-wise. We have around 72,000 killed, 172,000 injured, and this is the direct killing and injuries. Because if you count the indirect killing and injuries, the numbers will be much higher. And when I talk about indirect killing and injuries, I want you to imagine if you were in Gaza in the last 24 months and you had a chronic illness, you were suffering from heart issues, a cancer patient, a dialysis patient. What these patients were given a message is that of slow death, because there was no medication, there were no equipment, no dialysis machines, and those people eventually died. And this is the indirect killing, let alone people that are still under the rubble. And there's probably 10,000, 20,000 people that are missing. Some of them would be under the rubble, some would be in detention camps, and so forth. But regardless, that number is very high. It would be 400,000 probably, if not more. And it's something to think about, 400,000 from a population of 2.3 million. That's a lot. And you can do the math. If, for example, God forbid, something like that happened in India, it would be in the millions. And that's not acceptable. And we've seen it happening in front of the world, in the presence of international law, and where international law has been violated. Because international law is clear about the responsibilities of an occupier, how to deal with the occupied, what needs to be done in times of warfare, and what should happen to a state that commits wrongdoing to a scale that was committed by the state of Israel in Gaza. And we need people to speak about it, because speaking about the wrongdoing is not a taboo. Because any state that commits similar crimes against others would be told so. And they would not be called anti-Semitic, right? I mean, if wrongdoing is wrongdoing. So we want people to stand up tall, and we want the states to stand up tall, to say what should be said. And if we want international law to prevail, then we want that law, which many countries have worked very hard for, to be non-selective. That international law cannot apply in one part of the world, but when it comes to other parts, other people, then it becomes irrelevant. And if it becomes irrelevant, the question that needs to be asked today is, would international law continue to be relevant? If one state can pass and be granted impunity, why wouldn't other states do the same? So international law needs to be applied similarly wherever we are, with whoever, regardless of our religion, color, politics, etc., etc. So today Gaza is in shambles. And if we look at the people in Gaza, it's not just about the buildings in Gaza, it's about the people. And we need to think of people who have been bombarded for over 2 years, day and night, with enormous amounts of bombs, enormous destruction. How would these people pull themselves together? What kind of mental health our people in Gaza are living under? What needs to be done, not only infrastructure-wise, but in building the spirit of people who have been under such enormous atrocities? On the West Bank, the situation is very volatile. And when we talk about Palestine, and you as journalists, please remember that Palestine is one block, one entity, one geographical entity, one demographic entity, one people. Yes, we had division, internal division, but Palestine is Palestine. The state of Palestine is the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, and occupied East Jerusalem. And what happens in one part influences what is happening in the other part. Today on the West Bank, settler violence is spiking. On the West Bank, I'm sure you know, settlers, illegal Israeli settlers who have been incentivized to live on illegally constructed settlements on occupied land against international law, terrorize our lives day and night. And these settlers are not like you and I, they're armed people, and we're not armed on the West Bank. And they can come in, and if you check the news in the last years, and more so in the last 2 years, you will see that their attacks have been 3, 4, 5 folds, 10 folds. Because they are emboldened by the system. They are emboldened by a government that has settlers themselves as part of the government. And they have government members who are directly responsible to arming those settlers. And settlement and settler activities are part and parcel of the general Israeli policy. And that policy is very clear. Expand as much as you want, annex more land, and do whatever it takes to have people leave that land. And if you look at every single measure taken on the West Bank, in East Jerusalem, or in Gaza, it feeds into that specific policy. And that policy has been the same. It has not changed. That policy has been the same since before 1947. And we see it implemented in several forms. We had this genocidal, atrocious war on Gaza in the last 2 years, but on the West Bank, we have this silent push of the Palestinian people. The attacks on the Palestinian refugee camps is part of it. Annexation of land is part of it. Attacks on our prisoners, part of it. The piracy of our tax money is part of it. So everything that is done is very well orchestrated. And today I can claim very honestly that an occupier state is, in one way or another, legalizing criminality. And when I say legalizing criminality, I need to explain, because you wouldn't take it at face value. But if I tell you that an occupier state is discussing officially annexing occupied land against international law, then that's a crime. And that crime is being officialized. When I tell you that today the Israelis are calling for making it official the death penalty of Palestinian prisoners. Palestinians in Israeli detention camps, the great majority are prisoners of conscience. They're not criminals, I mean prisoners of conscience, and international law says you can struggle against your occupier. And as I said, some people opt non-violently, some people opt violently. And those prisoners of conscience will be subjected to a death penalty. And the world watches. Today there are laws in Israel that discriminate against anybody who is non-Jewish. I'm a Christian myself, and those laws apply to me. Palestinian Muslims, those laws apply to them. And the world talks about democracy. You are the largest democracy in the world, and you know what democracy is all about. When you see an occupier state instituting discriminatory laws on occupied people, then you need to wonder, where is that taking that specific state? Settler violence is nothing that we can pass through without thinking, because that settler violence is creating havoc. And if you look at the news, every day we have attacks. We have settlers storming towns, villages, refugee camps, beating people, beating children going to school, setting fire in trees. We have about 200 to 300 trees either set on fire or chopped or attacked in one way or another every day. Every day. In Area C, which is the breadbasket of the Palestinian people, Area C is a vast land. It's 60% of occupied Palestine. Full control by Israel. And the number of illegal settlers in that area of land would be probably about 10,000, maximum 15,000 settlers. That's not a large number compared to the 200,000, 700,000 settlers already in occupied Palestine. Those settlers, most of them, were ex-generals who have retired and now enjoying, exploiting our resources in occupied land. Exploitation of our water resources, exploitation of our minerals, exploitation of the Dead Sea, you name it. And as I said, that's our breadbasket. If we were given control of that area, and if we were given control of our destiny and our life, we will be coming less to the doors of many countries asking for assistance, because we will be able to take care of ourselves. We have a rich land. We have a land that is rich with resources. We have tourism. We have Jerusalem. We have Bethlehem. I mean, how many countries have Jerusalem and Bethlehem? It's Palestine. And we can exploit that specific component to generate what Palestine needs. So it's in the best interest of everybody that Palestine regains its place as per international law, because we are asking for nothing but international law, nothing above or below international law. We need to worry about the incitement we hear from an occupier state against the state of Palestine, its leadership, its people, its existence. Incitement comes in various forms. Today we have officials in Israel that clearly say to the world, and I'm sure you've heard it, and I'm sure you've seen maps, that it is not just the occupied territory we want. We want to move on to making a reality what we call Greater Israel. And Greater Israel encompasses lands from neighboring countries. A bit of Jordan, a bit of Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Egypt, even reaching Saudi Arabia. And you can imagine again, if any other country today was saying this very openly, what would happen? The country is saying it openly, that I want to infringe on the sovereignty of neighboring countries because I believe that this is my right. This is the Greater Israel that we want. And if you look at what Ben-Gurion said in 1947, when the partition plan was approved, and Israel was given, I believe, 54%, some say 56% of historic Palestine, he looked at his colleagues and said, because they weren't happy about it, they wanted the whole bit, he said, this is the map of the UN. This is their decision, but we have another map. And this is exactly what is happening today. Because yes, they do have another map, and we are seeing it materializing slowly. So where do we go from here? I can go on and on about the reality of and the difficulties. But I want to say one thing. I don't want to dwell on the suffering. We all, most of us, were born under occupation, raised under occupation. I was born before the occupation of 1967, and all of our lives lived under occupation. And no matter what it takes, you know it, the world knows it, that occupied people will struggle against occupation. No one will succumb to occupation, and no one will embrace occupation, and no one can beautify occupation. As such, you see us very resilient. Palestinians are extremely resilient. And what I heard yesterday gave me goosebumps, because somebody told me that already 70,000 Palestinians who have left Gaza in the last 2 years have signed to come back. Now, I don't know if it's 70,000, if it's 60,000, even if it was 5,000. That is a big message. That is telling the world that no matter what happens, look, the atrocities we had endured for the last 2 years and more, still we cling to our land. And if you look at the photos that came out of the first ceasefire, when people, there was a tsunami of people walking with nothing, brooms, mattresses, whatever they had left from their home. And you look at these pictures and you wonder, will these people ever leave? No, they will not leave. Because we have a right. And that right can never be erased. Okay, power might erase that right today. But things change. And we believe in our right, and we continue to look upon international law, albeit that international law is under attack today. Because we truly believe that what needs to govern this world is international law, which all countries have worked towards after World War II, so that the atrocities committed in World War II are not repeated. And if not international law, then what? If we want to go to the rule of power, then that's a message that the powerful will devour the weak. Is that what we want? No. So we will continue with our struggle through the law. Because that right needs to be respected by that international law. And we will continue our struggle as per our right to self-determination, as per international law, as per the New York Declaration. Today the New York Declaration said it very clearly. And more than 142, 144 countries signed, endorsed the New York Declaration. It says it in 42 points. What needs to be done? Even countries that have not recognized Palestine signed the New York Declaration. And we need to put everyone to account and say, you have signed, there are commitments. This is not just a piece of paper. And we would like to look with gratitude to everybody that signed. And we look forward for the rest of the world to come forward and say, yes, this is the way that we go forward. Now, I'm sure you have in mind what is happening now on the ground. You know that the Board of Peace was announced. Palestine has welcomed the Board of Peace. And for Palestine, and I say it very clearly, the priority today, before anything else, has been and will be to have the ceasefire maintained so that the lives of our people are saved. Because every delay in that ceasefire and the maintenance of that ceasefire meant the loss of lives. And even with the ceasefire, we had close to 600, 700 people that were killed, and we had triple or 4 times that number people injured. So it hasn't been a complete ceasefire, but a partial ceasefire. But the atrocities that we have been seeing have stopped, even partially. What we want now is to ensure that it is sustainable. We have the stabilization force, and that Board of Peace works within the spirit of UN Security Council Resolution 3803, I think, 3802. Because in 3802, it specifically alluded to the Board of Peace, the mandate of the Board of Peace, as specific to Gaza. It was specifically towards Gaza. We know that in Davos, the Board of Peace was presented, and there are questions about it by several countries, and there are legitimate questions, and discussions are still ongoing. We have the Palestinian Administrative Committee operational now. We are awaiting its entry into Gaza. It hasn't entered yet, but we hope it enters as soon as possible, and it starts its work. First thing first, we need to start with immediate relief efforts, meaning people need to eat, need to drink clean water, need to have basic services, healthcare services, educational services. We need children in schools. We need the over 1 million children who are on the streets to be in schools. They cannot continue being on the streets, observing the destruction around them, and thinking of what happened in the last few years and why it happened, and why the world did not come to their rescue earlier. We want the humanitarian assistance to start entering unimpededly. Until today, that humanitarian assistance is not entering in the amounts that were approved or decided or espoused. It is more than what it was before, but still it's not close to what is needed. So the needs in Gaza are enormous. The money for the rebuild of Gaza is in billions. And if you have read the report, some put it at 50 billion, 69 billion, 72 billion, even up to 110 billion. Regardless, those billions need to come from somewhere. And in that regard, we look forward to India's participation actively. We know it will. We would like it to continue participating in the reconstruction efforts. And it has done a lot under easier times. What is needed now is under more difficult times. We would like it to continue with its humanitarian assistance, not only in Gaza and the West Bank, but also towards UNRWA. And it has upped its contribution to UNRWA. And UNRWA, for us, is a lifeline to the Palestinian refugees. And UNRWA's operations need to continue. Because UNRWA was created for a purpose. The purpose was to cater to the needs of the Palestinian refugees. And it is mandated by the UN. And that need is not erased. If there was a need, this much need, before 2023, now the need is 50 times more. If we had 60% of the population of the Gaza Strip refugees before 2023, I can assure you today everyone is a refugee in Gaza. Displaced in Gaza. Have lost everything in Gaza. So the expectations from India are enormous, and we hope that India will come and put whatever it takes as it has done in the past. I will stop here and I will take a few questions. Please. I know I'm meeting with several of you individually, right? So we will have enough time for whatever questions you have in mind, but I'll take a few now. Please.
This is Yeshi Seri from Business India. I have two short questions. You said that 82% of the infrastructure in Gaza is non-existent. How many people are living in Gaza, and are they all living in refugee camps? And secondly, April is when elections are slated to happen. Is Hamas going to be barred, as President Abbas said?
People are not even living in refugee camps. Refugee camps were erased. Everything is in shambles. They are all living in tents. Today there's about 2 million people still in Gaza. 2 million people, mostly living in camps and in partially destroyed buildings that might fall at any time. So everybody in Gaza is in need. On Hamas is, as people, are part and parcel of the Palestinian people. And President Abbas had said it very clearly. If Hamas wants to be part of the Palestinian political structure, they need to join the PLO. And if they want to join the PLO, because the PLO is the umbrella of all Palestinian factions, and Hamas is not part of the PLO. If they want to join the PLO, they need to subscribe to the mandate of the PLO, to the agreement signed by the PLO, to the recognition of the State of Israel, to forging peace with our neighbors, because in the final analysis, Palestine wants to live in peace and security, with secure borders with its neighbors, not only Israel, with all of its neighbors. And if Hamas is willing to do so, it needs to join the PLO. Yes, please.
Do you think Hamas is going to join you all? And do you think, have you all been in talks with some of the leadership?
There have been talks before, and Hamas was presented with an 8-point that says, if you want to be part, these are the issues that you need to accept.
Get back to you.
Yes, they did not, and we hope that for the sake of the unity of Palestine, for the sake of the oneness of Palestine, for the sake of the future of our national project, that we have the oneness of Palestine, so that we are not separated.
Another thing.
Let me have that gentleman. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Rishikesh from PTI. So, as you have mentioned that Hamas is a part and parcel of Palestine. But of late, Hamas has established direct link with terrorist organizations in Pakistan. Even reports suggest that it has established a link with some terror group in Bangladesh as well. And especially in Pakistan, from the Pakistan side, India has a direct security threat. India has been facing across border terrorism for long. So how do you characterize this link between Hamas and Pakistan? And
we condemn all forms of violence and any relation with anybody that espouses violence. We in Palestine espouse no violence, and we espouse international law. Period.
My name is Nilafar Sarwagi. I have a brief question. I need your stand about the Arab world's economic and diplomatic support for the Palestinian issue. Do you think it's weak, strong, or should it be stronger?
Look, no matter how we look at it, the Arab world is our backbone. And we need to continue working with the Arab world. As Palestinians, we always want more, because our issue is so difficult that you need to garner the support and more support. Today, they have all said it with one word against the displacement of Palestinians from Gaza. They have said it on the need to reconstruct Gaza. They have said it on the need to stop the war. They have said it on the humanitarian assistance as one block. They have said it on, garnering the funding for the reconstruction. So Saudi Arabia today is playing a very important role. It is the one that, alongside France, has moved on with the New York Declaration. And if it wasn't this harmony between Saudi Arabia and France, then we would not have reached the New York Declaration. The New York Declaration is a very important declaration in the history of the Palestinians and the region. So we count on the Arab world. We want it to be as involved. We have Egypt that works day and night on resolving issues with Israel, the opening of the crossings, etc. Jordan, other Arab mediators with Hamas. But as I said, we look for more, always.
So, you said that Palestine has welcomed the Gaza peace program. India is so far non-committed, and in fact, many important countries, including permanent members of the Security Council, like the European economy, have not joined the whole of peace, and they're skeptical about it. I want to know about what gives you reasons for being optimistic about this bold idea. And you said that you batted for a bigger role for India in ending the Israel-Palestine conflict. You just flesh it out a bit.
We welcome.
1 minute, just to add to that, who did you meet in India this time? Bishop officials, anyone?
I'll start with your question. I haven't met anybody. This is the first meeting. I just arrived early this morning at 2 a.m. On the Board of Peace, we have embraced and welcomed the Board of Peace as stipulated in United Nations Security Council Resolution 3802 on Gaza, that says very clearly stopping the war, humanitarian assistance, opening the crossings, that is in the second stage. Then, as per Palestinian reforms, go into a political track leading to respecting people's right to self-determination and leading to statehood. This is what we have welcomed, and we will welcome anybody who would say that, because that's the path that we want. It tackles the need for the priority today to stop the war and the humanitarian assistance, and talks about a political track. Now, what the Board of Peace has sent globally is a bit different, and it's up to the world and world countries to discuss and see if that suits. But the vision is for the world, if they would like to join, if they don't want to join. One last question.
Taoki Hussain from the Musician Japan News. I just want to know that how is the Palestinian Authority ensuring that the Board of Peace serves as a bridge to sovereignty rather than a permanent foreign mandate? And also additionally, is there any direct communication between Palestinian Authority and the United States regarding the establishment?
Well, there is communication with the United States, specifically with our Vice President. Of course, not to the extent that is needed, because today we want full communication. I mean, we are part of the issue, and we need people to be speaking with us, not, planning for us or hearing from others about us. It's much more important for yourself to be engaged when the issue pertains to you. So discussions with the U.S. are ongoing, but not to the extent needed. On the mandate, we need to work on that, not just us and all our allies, the Arab world, Europe, all of us, because we are very clear about what we want. What we want is a path that will take care of the immediate relief and the reconstruction and takes us to a path of political resolution that materializes the state of Palestine.